probably a good time to start a company because big companies are cutting R&D and they're trying to maximize profits because it's hard and cash flow because it's hard to get financing, and usually when that happens, it's companies that get formed to take advantage of that lack of investment by big companies, and they grow, and then when the economy gets better, the big company realizes it's way behind, and then it goes and buys the small company. So I always look at when were great companies founded. Google was founded during the height of the bubble. It looked awful, and lots of companies get founded when things are tough.
Mary Ann, I should have singled you out from Tech America to thank you also for hosting. You got any question for the panel? Or am I putting you on the spot?
I don't have any questions. I've sort of been awed just listening to all this. It's been a wonderful presentation.
Thanks, I didn't mean to put you on the spot. How about here?
Yeah, so I find it easy to talk about business, just also addressing your question, and reading business books and getting, talking about businesses in this cut and dry spreadsheet income statement way. However, what I found from hearing the panel speak, and then Ted, you talked about this at the University of Maryland last month about how you were inspired with reading Ernest Hemingway, and how often it is this emotional experience that fuels business success. And we talked a lot about starting up and the money involved. However, Ara talked about the emotional experience. So can you at least address the emotional experience, which I find, I'm no expert, to be the starting point in business success, as Howard was just talking about that emotional connection with extra fruit on the plate, and how that is the differentiating factor, and not just another spreadsheet.
Can you talk to that point, the emotional point of this?
Starting businesses is really hard, and if you think it's hard, it's even harder. And I've done it. Depending on how you count, 6 to 9 different businesses I've started in the last 25 years, and every time it's harder, it takes longer than and costs more money than I thought it would. So if you don't have that emotional connection to the business that you're starting, if you're not passionate about what you're creating, it's easy to get tired of it and walk away. And there's an interesting paradox here, because as an entrepreneur, you have to be crazy tenacious, and you have to be just maniacally driven towards what you're doing. But at the same time, you have to have your eyes open, and you have to be willing to take the feedback that you get from the market, from your mentors, and to pivot. So you can't be too attached to what you're doing. But you need that, I believe, you need that passion. You need that something extra that's going to help you keep going and go the extra mile when the going gets tough.
Anger is a great emotion to start a company out of. 2006, I made a movie and got accepted at Sundance, and I won all the awards, and HBO bought it, and the studio who bought it in January of '06, the president called me and said, good news, we're going to distribute your movie Christmas week in 3 theaters in Manhattan. I said, have you seen the movie? It's a Chinese Holocaust movie with subtitles. Well, why would you open it Christmas week in Manhattan? You think it's date night, Christmas week? And it was, well, there's 30,000 theaters and 8,000 buildings in the United States, and 500 theaters, screens, will show documentary films and independent films. And I felt badly for artists and filmmakers who work so hard to make beautiful work, movies that matter, that shine the light on tough subjects and try to right wrongs. And the system was just stacked up against them. And so I started a company called Snag Films. Don't go to Stag Films. Snagfilms.com. And I launched it as a personal crusade to bring great movies connected to charities to the masses. And we launched 3 years ago. We now have 3,000 films. We have 160,000 virtual movie theaters. We're streaming 20, 30 million films a month. It started as a good deed, double bottom line business. Let's do well by doing good. I've since raised venture capital. Comcast, NEA has invested. And this is going to be a Netflix, Hulu-like company. I'll do great on it as an investor. I'm the largest shareholder and the founding chairman. But I did it out of concern that the industry was frankly screwing great young filmmakers and the foundations and angel investors in the film. And you know, I think that emotional, mission-based businesses can do very, very well.
Another question. Yes, Steve.
Right now, the American economy is such that discretionary income is probably lower in some areas than in other areas of time. In Groupon, do you find other countries, do you still find the American market as the largest discretionary income in the world, or do you see other countries catching up in that discretionary income?
2.2 billion people around the world connected to the internet. About 250 million internet connections in the United States. This time next year, the US will be less than 10% of the internet connections. And so we've lost sight that all of the growth for Facebook, for Google, for Groupon, Amazon is coming from outside of the United States. So we're all creating, we hear a lot of hype about social, local, hyper-local, mobile. The answer to that is yes, but it's on a global scale. And so Groupon has tapped into what lots of companies are tapping into, which is buying power, pricing power is now in the hands of the consumer. You can basically dictate as a consumer what you want to pay. You can become much more educated and find all of the information that you want, and you can get into collectives and drive the best kinds of deals. And it's never been a better time to be a consumer than it is right now.
Yeah, let me just say one thing on that. It's not simply the collective buying. The game world that we live in today has changed all pricing. And so the model of a fixed price in any business or any service is dead. Kids today will spend $30 a month in 99-cent increments, but will not sign up for a $10 a month subscription. And what we're seeing is that each person in the world will now decide what's the investment, what's the commitment, what's the entertainment value. And so what's so exciting to us is that instead of saying I'm going to spend 2 years and try to develop a game for Johnny Madden where the sweat looks really realistic on his left eyebrow in Madden Hockey 2090, and bring it to market after $20 million at $59.99 for 1 week, and then it'll be in the remainder bin for like $5. All of the work that's going on, all of social gaming is saying everything has to have a flexible price. So today it's worth this to me, tomorrow it's worth this, the next time I make a greater commitment, and everything will be sold and provided. And the exciting part is that opens a universe where you don't have to target a specific price point and a specific consumer. You get to be open to the whole world, and that's going to, again, be one of these things that dramatically changes businesses.
I was out visiting Zing a couple of weeks ago and was trying to learn about currencies, because I think that the definition of currency is changing dramatically. Right? We used to pay with money, or you would pay with time. Now more and more, Snag Film success is you're paying with pixels. You don't have time, you don't have money, but you can donate pixels. You can open a virtual movie theater. And so Zing has done a great job of creating virtual currency. And I was astounded by this because I agree discretionary income is tough to pry out of consumers. And so I ask, well, how are you making your money at Zynga? What's your best-selling product? And so they have a Farmville community where you can buy flowers and virtual tractors and seeds. And they launched a product where it's a very delicate flower and it needs to be watered before the sun comes up. And hundreds of thousands of people were setting their real alarm clocks for 2 o'clock in the morning to wake up and go water the flowers to keep them strong. And then Zynga launched a product for $5 real that would automatically water your virtual flowers.
So just 2 more things about Farmville. If you want to, if you want to really be frightened, there are 1.8 million real farmers in the United States. There are 80 million virtual farmers. About 90% of Zynga's income now comes from this, stream of selling virtual goods. But I want to say one more thing to Ted's point. I used to say when a business plan came in, that if it didn't save me time or money or increase my productivity, those were the 3 metrics, it wasn't a business. It might have been a product, a service, something that could be bolted on. But if it didn't meet one of those tests, and today we have at least 2 more currencies or 2 more criteria that are going to change behavior. One is, who knew that badges and accomplishments and achievements were going to cause hundreds of millions of people to do crazy things? Forget watering this. There's 1,000 of these sites now where you really don't want to be number 99 among your friends. So you're going to read books on Get Glue, or you're going to sign up or try to attract more people. All of these crazy status measurements are now changing behavior. So it's a whole new kind of currency. The other thing is, we never understood that because of this connectivity of these smartphones, it was going to make us a much smarter and more powerful consumer. We have information at our hands that permits us to check with our peers, to shop competitively, to find new products. And that's going to change the way we do it. And what that's doing is really rewarding us for being connected. And so these are sort of trends that are going to drive very serious changes in behavior going forward.
Thanks, Howard. Before you start, Mark, John Waseelan, are you here? Yeah. Ted, come on up. Go right ahead, Mark.
So before I joined AOL, I was president of Genie. Who here remembers Genie, the online service owned by GE? Okay, 5 of you. That's why I'm not there anymore, just so you know. Mathematically, it wasn't doing well. So I joined AOL. I've been a supplier to AOL. I supplied shopping and travel and all this stuff, a company called CompuCard. But I joined AOL, and I knew the company well. I went to lunch with Steve Case in the first couple of weeks. He sort of, how's it going? And I said, look, from all I can tell for years, the greatest salespeople for America Online are loneliness and boredom. And last time I checked, the world is forever getting more lonely and bored. And the latest iteration of that, to me, is kind of what you're seeing in these interactive environments. To spend $30 to get the sword of Siddhartha, so you can slice the head off your neighbor, wherever your neighbor is. Could be in India, could be in Indiana. This idea of communal solutions to loneliness and boredom have incredible margins. And I think that what you're going to start to see, I think we touched on it earlier, as devices that all of us, some of them have rung in the last 30 minutes, devices in our pockets, which are effectively the next platform for interactive experiences. As we go mobile for these types of games and these types of experiences to cure loneliness and boredom, it's a whole new way of people connecting, a whole new set of currencies and a whole new set of products that are absolutely both entertaining and in some cases, I think, a little bit alarming. But it is amazing that loneliness and boredom continue to be the best salespeople for these high-margin products.
Mark, that's a great point. Okay, who wants the last question? It's Marissa,
yeah.
And Ara gets the last answer.
Okay, great. 2 things. First, I was in New York with Steve Case last week at the Network for Teaching Entrepreneurship, judging the National Business Plan competitions. And he said that America needs to adopt entrepreneurship as a core value. And I thought that was great, because that's exactly what you were saying, that we all need to just be in the mindset of entrepreneurism. So I just wanted to mention that. But also, I read in the Post this past weekend, did you see the article on Richard Saul Wurman? He's the one who invented TED, and now he's coming up with the WWW conference that he's launching in September. And one of the things that Richard Saul Wurman said, and I actually had a chance to work with him like 20 years ago, long before I started my first business, and he's this master information designer. And he said that he thinks in a few years, Facebook and Twitter, they're going to be gone. Like, people won't even be using Facebook. It's just going to be obsolete. And I wanted to know what you guys thought of that assessment or prediction, and if you agree, what do you think is coming next? I mean, what is the social media landscape going to look like if it doesn't include the Twitters and the Foursquares and the Facebooks, or if you don't agree? I was just wondering where you guys stood on that.
Well, I'm going to jump to the first statement about entrepreneurship being a core value, and quite frankly, that is a core American value. My partner was born in Sweden, and when he first came to the United States when he was 18, I believe, he was walking down a street and he saw junk or furniture and clothing in people's front lawns, and he thought they were being evicted. They were having a yard sale, and that's something that they don't do elsewhere around the world. But what's interesting, though, is prior to the industrial age, most Americans were entrepreneurs. You had a small business, you had a trade, you lived above your retail store, you were a blacksmith, you were a farmer. And so that has always been a core value of being an American. And what's interesting, Troy and I were chatting earlier, back when we were going to school, there was no such thing as entrepreneurship. There were no programs. If you were mowing lawns or selling goods, there was no term to really describe that. And people that went to college, students went to college to study business, they would take classes like statistics and economics, which really it's not a very good fit for most entrepreneurs. It's about the creativity and about developing ideas. And I think that now, more than ever, with the level of unemployment we are today, entrepreneurship is becoming a much more viable option, a career option that most people need to look at as an alternative to finding a job. Start a company. Now is the best time to start a company, like we mentioned earlier.
Let me just say, I think he's completely wrong. And Facebook, if anything, is becoming more pervasive in every respect. They now have their own currency. This is going to be a gigantic, gigantic win for them. And we live in a winner-take-all world where one or two, ultimately choices emerge in any of these competitions. And honestly, the concentration that we're seeing with Facebook, this huge, as Mark would say, sucking effect, where people are being engaged more and more. And frankly, all these game companies, Zynga and Playdom and everything else, they were built on top of this powerful platform. Now Project Z is an attempt to get off the platform because Facebook is charging 30 cents of every dollar that you spend. Every one of those $5, they get 30 cents of each one. And that tariff is unbelievably lucrative for them, and so many businesses will never go away because Facebook is really smart. Facebook is doing social design. They're doing the open graph now. They're doing, if anybody here hasn't had the choice between pressing the beautiful little blue button, Facebook Connect, or listing for the 10,000th time your basic information, of course we're lazy. It's quick, and that has empowered thousands of businesses actually who no longer have to worry about membership and identity and authentication, all those things. They just have to put about 6 lines of Facebook code into their site and they're done. And that power of platform is really what's going to keep Facebook around for a long, long time.
And on the point about entrepreneurship, so the Kauffman Foundation did a study last year, a couple of years ago, on net job growth. And I believe that the statistic was that over the last 30 years, 100% of the net job growth has come from companies of 500 employees or fewer. So this is where our jobs are coming from. Obama sees it, Startup America, Steve Case's big effort. I mean, there are a lot of people working towards that. That's why we created Excelerate Labs. And I firmly believe that our way out of the economic situation we are today is through promoting entrepreneurship.
And Dingman Center, Smith School, Georgetown, they all have to change. Less than 2% of venture capital-backed companies are started by MBAs. So we need to inculcate young adults, students to celebrate and want to create their own businesses and drive job creation. I think that that is a key. America is a startup. We've kind of resembling right now a old manufacturing-like company. And the fear, it's not only opportunity, but fear should drive us as well. You know, right now, the Steve Jobs, the Sergey Brins, the Mark Zuckerbergs, but the next generation of those entrepreneurs are in some village in India that we've never heard of. And this concept of the rise of the rest is upon us because, 10 times the amount of people now have access to what we've taken for granted as a community, as an economy, and the world's passing us by. So whatever we can do to be innovative and create new businesses, I think better for the country.
Mark?
So in 2009, I was at Google in their quad, and walking by, they had one of those endless pools, those small pools with a fan so it shoots the water, and you can swim against the current in a small little 8x10 pool. They had an endless pool there in the open quad, and next to the endless pool was a woman lifeguard sitting in a bathing suit with the white stuff in her nose and a hat and the umbrella, like a lifeguard for the endless pool, right? An employee of Google, wasting money. So I giggled, and my guide, my colleague at Google, was like, "Oh yes, that's one of our little peccadillos here at Google." And I said, "Well, you got to watch it." And I said, "In 1989, I was at Microsoft headquarters in Redmond, Washington, and there were guys with ponytails and Jeeps, and the stock was going up, everybody's rich, and they were running the world." 1999 at AOL, guys had ponytails on Jeeps, the stock was going north, everybody's rich and running the world. 2009, ponytails, Jeeps, stocks going north, running the world. Sic transit, gloria mundi. In Latin, that means thus passes the glory of the earth. I said, enjoy it now, because it's not going to last forever. And my Google guest said, oh, no, we're different. And I said, that's what they said. Okay. Remember, Facebook is big now, to your point. But nothing lasts forever, and Ted is exactly right. 10 years from now, if we're sitting in this panel, if we're still alive, we'll be talking about another company, not Facebook, running the DNA of interactive services, in my opinion.
John Wasila, would you please come on up here? We're going to hear 60 seconds on TechCo.
Thank you. Good morning. Thank you, Robert. I'm John Wasila, and I'm the Executive Vice President and Chief Operating Officer of TechCo, Maryland Technology Development Corporation. And this has been an incredible discussion this morning because it's exactly about something that we're very much a part of, and it's entrepreneurship. For years, we have felt that there hasn't been enough to really celebrate entrepreneurship in this region, Maryland, DC, Northern Virginia. And it really was brought home to me when I took a business trip to Austin, Texas last year. And a number of us kind of got exposed to what's going on down in Austin, Texas, and some great things. But the big takeaway that we all came back from was there is a different culture for entrepreneurship there. And I think Ted used the word, they celebrate entrepreneurship. They promote entrepreneurship, they support it. And I don't think we do a good enough job in that front. So 4 weeks from today, 1 month from today, November 14th, we will be hosting, along with many other partners, an entrepreneurship expo at the BWI Marriott. And flyers are being passed out to everyone right now. If this whets your appetite, this is going to be the full course, because this will be a full day of interactive entrepreneurship activities, from financing to tech transfer to working with universities if they have technology that entrepreneurs are looking for to develop, to talking to successful mentors. You've heard a panel of very successful people today. You'll have an opportunity to talk one-on-one with successful mentors to talk about your specific situation, maybe get a little more granular in some of the discussion and so forth, and to really try and promote and celebrate entrepreneurship in this region. So the website is innovatemd.com. That's innovatemd.com. I would encourage you to go look at that, pass the word to your colleagues. It is all about entrepreneurs, both wannabe entrepreneurs, startup entrepreneurs, and experienced successful entrepreneurs. So I encourage you to go to that. It builds on what you're hearing about this morning, and I think it would be an excellent opportunity to really shine a light and celebrate and support entrepreneurship in this region. So Robert, thank you very much.
Thank you, John. Troy Henikoff, Ted Leonsis, Howard Tullman, Ara Bagdasarian, Mark Walsh, thank you.